Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Marlene and I talk about eating disorder recovery and everything related to healing the relationship with your own body, with food and with movement. And let's dive right into the topic as we always do. And today we're going to talk about something that is actually not only important for people who are in recovery from an eating disorder, but actually for everyone, but especially for those in recovery. And that is the nervous system, or the central nervous system, and especially the dysregulation of the nervous system and the role it plays in recovery. So the central nervous system is kind of like the communication network between your brain, your spinal cord, and your nerves. And it plays a huge role when it comes to mental health. It controls and coordinates bodily functions, thoughts, and reactions to the environment, which means that a dysregulated nervous system can have a high impact on your body and on your mental health. A dysregulated nervous system goes along with heightened stress levels, emotional instability, difficulty focusing, and also physical symptoms like digestive issues, anxiety, insomnia, pain, and a bunch of other things you don't really want to have. So when it comes to trauma work, or even people who are diagnosed with PTSD, the regulation of the nervous system plays a huge role, because you can do so much speak therapy and you can be super aware of your issues, of your traumas, but you might still have the feeling like you feel stuck and you can't really change anything. So regulating the nervous system plays a huge role when it comes to actually getting unstuck and getting out of this fight or flight mode, which is, one of the biggest problems of a dysregulated nervous system. When we talk about eating disorders, it is super important to understand that eating disorders can be actually very traumatic for you. And even though that might be a little bit hard for others to understand, because some people think, well, you do that to yourself. This is not the case, as we all know. And again, living with an eating disorder is extremely traumatic. And this is why actually everyone who has an eating disorder or who starts recovery from an eating disorder pretty much has a dysregulated nervous system. In order to understand how regulating the nervous system works, and also what impact the dysregulated and regulated nervous system has on your mental health and also on your physical health, I want to dive in a little bit deeper into the science and the backgrounds of the nervous system. So the vagus nerve plays a huge role within the nervous system. And the vagus nerve basically connects your brain, your digestive system, and the heart. The vagus system is part of the autonomic nervous system, which combines the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. And the vagus nerve is actually part of the sympathetic nervous system. When I say automatic nervous system, that means that you don't really have control over it. There's definitely things you can do to regulate your nervous system, which I'm going to touch on later in this video. But overall, those bodily functions happen without you having to control them. Let's take your breathing or even your digestion, for instance. That is something your body is doing on its own. This is why it's called automatic nervous system. Let's take a look at the sympathetic nervous system, which is basically there if you look back into the Stone Age, into ancient times. I know I do that a lot, but it is so helpful to understand. So the sympathetic nervous system was basically designed in order for you to, hunt food, maybe hunt animals. And this is why we often talk about the fight or flight response, because you had to respond quickly. Your cortisol and your adrenaline levels raise, like all those stress hormones raise. You actually have an inhibited digestion, which is designed for the body to actually save energy, but which is also a reason why, for instance, people with anxiety have so much digestive issues, because your body actually takes a step back on the digestion, wants to save energy because you're in this fight or flight state, which of course has his pros, and there's a reason why our body is doing that, but we don't need it all the time. Again, the sympathetic nervous system was actually designed, for you to get food, hunt, maybe run away from an enemy. And this is why, sometimes the pupils get bigger. I just mentioned the raise in stress hormones, and also the breathing gets faster. These are all functions of the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. This is needed when you have your food and you start digestion. It is also called rest and digest, and the reason why that is because now your body can put all the energy into the digestion. You calm down, which is why a lot of people like to get tired after eating, especially after eating big meals. And this is where everything calms down and your body can digest the food that it had just eaten. So the vagus nerve signals between the brain, the heart, and the digestive system, and it connects the main nerves of the parasympathetic nervous system, which also contains left and right nerves, which is interesting for something I'm going to touch on later in the video. The vagus nerve controls mood, speech, muscle sensations, urine output, and even the taste. Symptoms of the dysregulation of the nervous system are fatigue, insomnia, anxiety, depression, high stress levels, low energy, overstimulation, and even autoimmune diseases, because the body is in a constant fight or flight modus and can never really relax. Some people actually say it is hard to diagnose a dysregulated nervous system because other than cortisol and other stress hormones in the blood, there are not a lot of markers you could actually test. But I'm pretty sure if you have a dysregulated nervous system, you feel it. It is just like a different feeling. And as somebody who lived with a very dysregulated nervous system for a very long time, I can promise you, you know. But let's touch on the connection between eating disorders and a dysregulated nervous system. And here's the thing, eating disorders are stressful for the body. I mentioned it before, but they take a big toll on the body. They can dysregulate your nervous system so much, but also the other way around. Somebody who has a dysregulated nervous system already, for instance, from trauma, constant stress in the childhood, traumatic experiences, and a lot of other things, somebody who has a dysregulated nervous system is also more vulnerable for things like depression, anxiety, mood disorders, mood swings, eating disorders, or addictions. And we often forget that eating disorders are process addictions. So we get addicted to the process. We get addicted to our behaviors, and our brain learns that those behaviors are the only good thing, which on the one hand can be a consequence of a dysregulated nervous system, and on the other hand, that can also lead to an even more dysregulated nervous system. So the question is, how do I know for sure that I have a dysregulated nervous system, but also how do I handle it? How can I regulate my nervous system? And the good news is that is definitely possible. So here are a few more things that might be a sign of a dysregulated nervous system that you didn't even think were signs of a dysregulated nervous system. Some of those signs are sleep positions. I always call it the T-Rex arm. So a lot of people actually sleep like this, or do something with their hands, which can be a sign of a dysregulated nervous system, as well as the mountain climber. I'm actually going to blend in a picture up here so you know what I mean. And then also high cortisol, which is I'm pretty sure everyone who has high cortisol, high stress hormones knows how that feel. You can also get that tested, but again, in the majority of the cases, people are very aware that they are under a lot of stress. Many people also develop tics, which are, it can be like facial expressions, it can be like certain noises they make, or like other kinds of tics. And these are always signs of a dysregulated nervous system as well. For a lot of people, pain is also part of a dysregulated nervous system. For instance, pain in the jaw because you're constantly clenching your jaw. For some people it's even like a not so visible jawline or a puffy face because of high cortisol. We actually store more water in our faces, but also pain in the feet, legs, or hips. And actually our hips store a lot of trauma, which is why a lot of somatic exercises are working with the hips. And maybe you have seen those videos before of people who are making hip exercises and all of a sudden start to cry, and you think why is that? Well, the reason is because our hips store a lot of trauma. And the good news is that we can then utilize those hip exercises to release some of the trauma. You might be one of those people, or you might know somebody who, with the smallest inconvenience gets a super high reaction. Let's say somebody has a bad day already and then something else happens and they just lose their mind. And oftentimes this is also a part of a dysregulated nervous system. And the more and the longer we are in this dysregulated state, the more small inconveniences will also stress us out, which will then lead to an even more dysregulated nervous system again. The good news is when we start healing our nervous system and regulating it, we will become way more resilient. Small things won't even stress us anymore. We will be more relaxed overall, which again leads to a more regulated nervous system. So you can see it can go both ways, but we can actively work on regulating our nervous system. And I now want to share some things with you that you can start doing today in order to regulate your nervous system. And I just want to mention, there's a bunch of things out there, and I would like you to listen to your body. Some things don't feel right for some people, whereas other things feel completely right. So you can listen to your body, and if something doesn't feel right, you don't have to do it. There's so many things out there that help you to regulate your nervous system that I'm sure that you will find the right thing for you. The first thing, and I mentioned it before, is somatic work. There's, for instance, somatic exercises like hip exercises, or also TRE, which stands for trauma release exercise. There are exercises that bring your body to shake and therefore release trauma. So one very, very nice exercise that I like to do is you basically sit with your back on the wall and you go like into a sitting position, but without having a chair, and you like basically make your legs shake. And this shaking in the legs and the hips will help you tremendously to release trauma. Another thing that I find so amazing is dancing. You don't necessarily have to go to a club where, loud music and other people could also dysregulate your nervous system again if you're like an introvert. But like dancing is an amazing way to release trauma from the body, as well as shaking, like shaking your body out. And you might have heard those exercises before and you thought like, how should that help me? Well, the answer is because it stimulates the vagus nerve and it helps you to actively basically shake out the trauma out of your system. So what I like to do sometimes in the morning is to like put on some music and just like dance. Nobody has to see it. I'm pretty sure it looks crazy, but I don't care, because first of all, I start the day with a way better mood, and second of all, I actually help my body to, get out some of the trauma and like release some of the stress out of my system. There's also certain frequencies that can definitely help to regulate your nervous system. No matter what app you use for like listening to music, if it's like Spotify, YouTube, or any other app, you can type in nervous system regulation or nervous system regulating frequencies, and there's a bunch of frequencies. I love to listen to them while I'm working, just like in the background, or also sometimes at night. It definitely helps me to fall asleep faster, and I'm pretty sure I also wake up a little bit more, relaxed and rested. It might be just in my mind, but in the end, if it works, it works. But there are definitely frequencies out there that are scientifically proven to help you regulate your nervous system. The next thing I'm going to say might be a little bit annoying to some of you, especially if you have had a lot of therapy, maybe you have been in clinics, maybe you have tried all of those different things. You probably came across breath work. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am a huge fan of breath work now. I was not a huge fan of breath work when I was still in my eating disorder, because all those therapists and yoga practitioners and people in the clinic and basically everyone was telling me to do breath work, and I was so annoyed. I was like, my problems are way bigger. Why would breath work help me? I'm breathing already, right? But let me explain. The position of your lungs basically stimulate the vagus nerve every time you're breathing in. But it is very important to not breathe super flat and fast, because that can actually do the opposite and lead to dysregulation, because it can raise the stress hormones in your blood and give your brain and your body the feeling that there is stress around and that you have to be in fight or flight mode. When you breathe in deeply and maybe even do some exercises, that can help to regulate the nervous system. And I mentioned the left and right nerves of the nervous system before, and this is where it all comes together. When we do breathing exercises that have a certain rhythm, it will stimulate both sides equally, which is super important to regulate the nervous system. One of my most favorite breathing exercises is actually box breathing, because it is so simple and I can do it whenever during my day. I'm oftentimes actually doing it in traffic, because I live in LA and there's a lot of traffic. And so box breathing is basically you choose a number that feels right for you. You can like play around with it a little bit. And like, let's say you choose 4. So you breathe in 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and you hold your breath for 4 seconds. And you can repeat that as long as you want to. If you feel like 4 seconds is not enough, you can, go to 5 or 6 seconds. You can basically adjust this. But the important thing is breathing in, holding, breathing out, and holding is all the same length. And I promise you right now, it will definitely help to feel calmer immediately. Something else that can be super helpful with regulating your nervous system is singing or humming. Because of the position our vocal cords are at in the body, they also stimulate the vagus nerve. So if you are humming or singing, you will constantly stimulate the vagus nerve, which will then help your body to go into the parasympathetic nervous system, and that will help you to regulate the nervous system. And one of my most favorite things, just because I find it so amazing that this is how we humans are designed, is laughter. Laughter, first of all, raises a lot of great hormones that make you instantly feel better, but due to all the muscles that are activated when you laugh, it also helps to stimulate your vagus nerve. And this is so amazing to me, because laughter is something so beautiful, and I always find it so crazy that you know, sometimes we can't even contain our happiness and we just have to laugh because something is so great or so funny. So laughter is an amazing way to actually regulate the nervous system and stimulate the vagus nerve. And then there are more specific things, for instance, acupuncture or even vagus nerve stimulators. Those little gadgets you basically hold on the side of your neck and they will like stimulate the vagus nerve. They don't hurt or anything. So some professionals actually have those vagus nerve stimulators and, you know, offer their patients to use them, but you don't necessarily need them. Another thing that people often talk about are cold plunges. There's actually a side of people who say that cold plunges are not beneficial for the nervous system because it gets your body in a little shock, but there's also a lot of people who say that it is beneficial for the nervous system. And this is one of those cases where I would actually advise you to listen to your body. I love cold plunges. I love to jump into the ocean even in winter because my body feels great afterwards. This is something that gives you more anxiety or where you like feel more dysregulated afterwards. Please don't do it. That's what I meant before when I was saying listen to your body. You can try out all those exercises, also like yoga, walking, certain other like slow movements. There's an amazing list of things you can do. You will find your things for sure if you listen to your body. And one thing I just forgotten that I really wanted to add is journaling and also like drawing. Maybe you know those adult painting books or drawing books where you basically like, you know, paint out little pictures. They can also help to regulate the nervous system. But for some people, it is something that just makes them more anxious or more nervous because they have to concentrate so much on not making a mistake. So in this case, it wouldn't be super beneficial. And that's what I mean when I'm saying listen to your body and you will find the things that work for you. I really hope this video about the nervous system and exercises and what to do to regulate the nervous system helped you guys. And if so, I would love if you could leave a comment, leave a like, and maybe show this video to someone who might profit from it. Because all I want to do is help people in their recovery and also, you know, help people to get a healthier relationship with themselves. So I hope that was helpful, guys, and I will see you in the next one.